All right, let's dive in. We're going to tackle one of history's great puzzles today, ancient India. But before we can even get to the cool stuff, the empires, the big ideas, we have to figure out something even more fundamental. How do we even know about any of it?
And right out of the gate, we hit a huge problem. You see, unlike, say, the Greeks or the Romans, the people of ancient India didn't really leave behind neat, tidy history books that just tell us what happened year by year. So what do you do? How on earth do you piece together the story of these incredible empires and their philosophies? It's kind of like being a detective showing up to a crime scene, except the crime happened thousands of years ago.
So what's the first thing any good detective does? They survey the scene, right? Well, for historians, the scene of the crime is the geography. The actual land, the mountains, the rivers, all of that played a massive part in how this whole story went down.
There's this old saying, geography is destiny. And while that might sound a little dramatic, for ancient India, it's so true. The landscape wasn't just a boring backdrop for the action. No way. It was an active force, a main character, really. It basically decided where great empires could even exist, where traders could sail, and even which routes invaders would take.
Okay, so look at this. It breaks it down so well. First, you've got the Himalayas. This massive wall that seems to seal India off. And yeah, it did offer a lot of protection, but if you look closer, you see these mountain passes, and those were the gateways. That's where people, ideas, and goods flowed in and out. Then you have the Indo-Gangetic Plain right below it. This super fertile area, that's the heartland. It's no accident that India's greatest empires, like the Mauryas and the Guptas, grew up right there. And the coast? It wasn't an end point, it was a starting point. It was a highway for ships, connecting India with places as far away as the Roman Empire. Pretty amazing.
All right, so we've surveyed the scene. Now it's time to open up the evidence locker. And when it comes to ancient India, historians basically sort all the clues into two big categories. And honestly, getting a handle on these two types of evidence is, well, it's everything. It's absolutely crucial.
So, on one hand, you have literary sources. This is pretty straightforward. It's what people wrote down. We're talking everything from really sacred religious texts to super practical guides on how to run a government. This stuff gives us a window into what they believed, what they were thinking. Then, on the other hand, you have archaeological sources. This is the stuff they physically left behind, stuff you can actually hold in your hand, Coins, broken bits of pottery, the foundations of old cities. This tells us a totally different story about their everyday lives, their tech, their economy. You absolutely need both to even begin to see the whole picture.
Okay, let's dig into the written stuff first. This is where we get to hear the actual voices from the past. But, and this is a big but, we always have to ask who was doing the writing, and just as important, why were they writing it?
So we can kind of sort all this written evidence into three main buckets. First, you've got religious texts, like the Vedas. These give us incredible insights into the culture and what society was like. Then there's secular literature. So, not religious stuff. A perfect example is the Arthashastra, which is basically a brilliant, super practical manual on statecraft. And then there's this third category that is just pure gold. Accounts from foreign travelers. People who visited and just wrote down what they saw.
I mean, think about it. These travelers were kind of like ancient journalists, and their reports are absolutely priceless. You had a Greek ambassador named Megasthenes who gave us this incredibly detailed look at the powerful Mauryan Empire. Then, centuries later, Chinese pilgrims like Fa Hien and Huinsang came, and their diaries are like these perfect little snapshots of life during and after the Gupta Golden Age. That outsider's point of view, you just can't get it anywhere else. It's irreplaceable.
Okay, so now let's go to the other side of that evidence locker. We're shifting gears now from what people wrote to what they physically left behind. This is the hard proof, the stuff we literally have to dig out of the ground.
One of the key tools here is something called epigraphy. It's just a fancy word for the study of inscriptions. So think of official announcements, but carved right into stone or metal. The famous Mauryan Emperor Ashoka, for example, had his royal orders, his edicts, carved onto massive rocks and pillars all over the place. And what's great about these is they are super reliable. I mean, a book can be copied and changed over the centuries, right? But it's pretty darn hard to go back and edit a giant stone pillar.
And then you've got numismatics, the study of coins. And you wouldn't believe what a tiny piece of metal can tell a historian. Seriously, coins can tell you about the economy, they help you map out ancient trade routes, and get this, sometimes they're the only proof we have that certain kings even existed. The whole history of the Indo-Greeks in India, for example, was pieced together almost entirely from the coins they left behind.
It's incredible.
And sometimes archaeology isn't just a supporting player in this detective story, it's the absolute star of the show. Take the Indus Valley civilization. It was this huge advanced culture, but we still can't read their writing. So for them, the physical evidence, the ruins of their cities, their seals, their tools, that's the only voice they have. Without archaeology, their whole amazing story would just be silent.
So let's recap. We've surveyed the scene, the geography. We've gone through the evidence locker, the literary and archaeological clues. Now let's put it all together. Let's see why getting this foundation right is the key to cracking the whole case of ancient Indian history.
So really, the historian's method is a pretty clear three-step process. Step 1, you look at the geography. That gives you the stage where everything happened. Step 2, you dive into the literary clues, the written stuff, to hear the stories and understand what people believed. But you can't just stop there. That's why Step 3 is so important. You have to cross-reference those stories with the hard, physical evidence from archaeology to see what really holds up.
And that, right there, is the most important thing to take away from all this. Understanding the geography and knowing the difference between these two kinds of evidence. It's not just some boring intro. It is the framework. It's the master key that you need to unlock the rest of ancient Indian history, from its very first cities all the way to its most powerful empires.
Which kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on. When the evidence is this scarce, when the stories we have might be biased, and when the physical clues can be interpreted in different ways, is the historian really just discovering a story that was already there? Or are they, in a way, creating one from all these broken pieces? It's something to think about, and it reminds us that history isn't just about what happened. It's about the puzzle of how we know it happened at all,